Good day, everyone. How are you? It's Carpo here. I was going to do this video about, what would it be? Survival of the fittest, I guess I should call it. The idea that within nature we somehow set ourselves apart from nature because of our consciousness. That while animals may compete for food, humans are conscious enough to be able to share things and to help one another and to bring the whole species up as a whole rather than worrying about the individual. Let me start out. I saw this documentary I was watching the other day about the woods, nature, whatnot, and there was this part with these chipmunks, and these actually were squirrels, and one squirrel was new, he was younger, and it was his first winter, and he was collecting all these nuts. Every time he collected his nuts in his little cavern and he'd head out for other ones, this older squirrel across the way, wait till he left and he'd go over and steal his nuts and bring them back to his. And this whole documentary was set up around, very, very specifically watching exactly what was happening. They had the cameras in the burrows and everything. And towards the winter, when it was getting really desperate, the guy who had nothing left was scrambling to try to get nuts, because if he doesn't, he's going to die. Period. And he knows this inherently. So what does he do? He goes over and he finds out where his nuts have been going. He follows the other guy and he goes back and he raids his cavern. But when he comes back out, the older guy is out there waiting for him, and they get in this fight. And this little guy fights and fights and fights, scares the guy off, and takes his nuts back, goes back to his cavern and sits out the winter. Now you could say that one was older. You might think the older one would win, and quite often that's true. This young guy had a lot riding on his life. He knew that he had to survive, and he's willing to sacrifice to make sure he survives. Now, this is kind of a long way of saying the preservation of genetics is really what nature is trying to preserve, the dominant genetics, which can assist a group or a species. As humans, since we have guilt and awareness the way we do, when we have more than someone else, we want to share with them. Not always, not every person. Not every person likes to share even. But that we do tend to feel guilty for those who have less than we do. Now, I'm not talking about people who are poor. What I wanted to talk about was people who are poor-minded, people who have weak ethics, people who have bad values, people who, and this is of course all subjective. This is what I see as bad values. The values I'm talking about are take what I can get while I'm here, and anybody else I have to step on to get there, too bad for them. And that's really a lot of what goes on in industry and business. It's a dog-eat-dog world, right? But if we take the extremes, those who are all out for themselves and those who are out to help humanity as a whole, I find myself in the middle, and I start asking questions such as, I don't really know how to word this without sounding crude or, uncaring, but supporting people who are inferior in their, let's just take genetics for a minute, and I want to go extreme and take the extreme example of how some people have applied this. Eugenics. Eugenics was the idea that, we could, they wanted a superior Aryan race. This is where the whole Nazi idea came from. Eugenics started long before Nazis, and it never ended after Nazism. It's the idea that of weeding out the weak. And I've really been mulling over this in my head over the years. Like, what happens when our species perpetuates weak genetics, such as, let's say, we have a particular genetic disease that is inherent and is going to be carried on through many traditions. Many what is the word I'm looking for? And through your ancestry, from your ancestors, something that's carried on like a genetic mutation or problem, where in a natural setting, those people would be weeded out, as nature would would do that. Nature will weed out the weak. Humans have taken the step up and become nature, and now we decide who's the weak and who's the strong. We've been supporting, false values about materialism for so long that some of the traits that we're carrying on to our offspring are, and I'm not just talking about genetic defects, I'm talking about mental defects, and not mental retardation or anything like that, but rather value defects, defects in the way we see the world. A lot of people are very opposed to, well, I won't even get into that because that opens up a whole new can of worms. This is more difficult than I thought it would be to explain. I guess what I'm saying is that we have an obligation to support intellectuals. People like Noam Chomsky, I was just watching a video earlier of his, and he was talking about intellectuals. He was being interviewed, and the lady was asking him, she said, do you think that the problem is that more intellectuals don't step up to the plate and say anything? And, he said, it's just that the ones who matter, the ones who people listen to, don't. I know dozens of intellectual people I listen to that really have no following or no, for example, people who want to be better people, people who want change, can often opt out of society, opt out of the bullshit. And I found myself doing that in the past, just saying, well, if the rest of the world wants to move on as it is, I'm going to do my thing. And I know that that's not right. I know I can't do that because I am part of this society. But that's assuming that people are really all connected. See, that what affects me or others, affects others affects me just as well. But from a materialist, completely evolutionary standpoint, that wouldn't be believed by a person. They'd say, whatever happens to me is what happens to me, what happens to you is what happens to you. That's a huge dividing line there. But even if you don't believe that, in some metaphysical effect when you hurt others that are hurt to you, you can know the societal effect, that when we hurt others, what happens. That often when a person develops a certain amount of awareness and intellectual capacity, they have no interest any longer in spreading their word or what they have to say. I find myself like this when people have said, hey, you could get your videos out there if you put it on this place or that place, or this is a good way to get views. I found myself saying, I don't really want more views. My channel's not intended to get views. My channel's intended to meet people. But then I started thinking, with some of the people have said that certain videos have affected them, and it makes me want to share. But I'm humble enough to know that what I say is just one guy's point of view. You see what I'm saying? That I've met people who, when somebody says, wow, that's a great idea, it goes to their head, and then they say, yeah, I'm the shit, man. I know everything. Yeah, I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you the truth. Anybody to me these days who says, let me tell you the truth, I just walk away and shake my head. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear a person's version of truth, and I don't mean the truth about a particular subject involving two people, but the truth about life, the truth about God, the truth about existence, the truth about aliens, the truth about Bigfoot, the truth about this or that. Prove it, or shut up, But there's too much speculation about everything, and that's just how we are as humans. So I'm not blaming people, because we are all confused. I had a conversation with my buddy the other day, and we were just talking about how confusing it is to be a human, and how we have to block out our past in order to move forward. We can't sit and ponder all the problems in the world all the time, or we'd never get anything done. This is why I was talking about psychedelics the other day as being a path to see everything at once. But if we were to be in that state of mind all the time, nothing would get accomplished, because we'd be living in this ether state that's just, so magnificent that we wouldn't be able to function. Anyway, I guess I'll just leave it at that. Say that I really don't know what to think about it. People are people, and we're going to do what we're going to do. I guess if I could leave one message, it would be, I would urge people who feel that they, even if you don't have a great self-esteem, or you're afraid of being seen on camera, or you're afraid of being ridiculed, it doesn't matter. Speak your mind and what you think is important, because we need everyone to do that. Because it seems like those who are speaking their mind about a lot of situations don't have any retort against it, because people just roll their eyes at it. We need to discuss things, figure things out, know who we are as individuals, so we can see what's important to us. I'm just talking out my ass, It's like I couldn't convey a single bit of the message I really wanted, I guess, get across here. And that's okay, because that's what I expected, I really like people, but I ask myself, do I like them just because I have to like them? I find myself avoiding people. Some sort of, to a degree, I have this social anxiety, which I think a lot of people understand. And it's funny, because I can go into a group, and once I become comfortable with a group of people, I can begin to discuss what, different things, what's important. But I clam up when I'm with somebody I've never met, or and that's something I need to get past. It's something everyone needs to get past, to realize that people are just people, and there's nothing to hide from. I don't know. I'll leave it at that. I wish you all the best.